Welcome back to a new episode of the Leading Yourself podcast. I'm super excited about today's podcast episode. I think we're going to kill two birds with the same stone today because, one, I hope that I'm going to deliver a podcast episode that inspires you, which is always my purpose, but also I think I might be answering a question that a lot of you have been asking me. And that is, Carolina, you've been doing this for over 3 years. How do you find the inspiration to come up with topics every single week? Well, you're about to find out, at least for this week, where my inspiration comes. And not only today, my purpose is to inspire you, but also I want to invite you to join me on a challenge this month of May. So let's talk a little bit more about what that challenge is and how you can join. Let's dig into today's podcast episode. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. Okay, I need to start by saying, where did April went? I'm here recording this very last episode of the month, and it feels like it was last week when I was telling you all, welcome to April, welcome to spring. Let's talk about spring cleaning our lives. And as I'm standing here recording this podcast episode, and it's Sunday, and I feel like, being completely honest, I've made zero progress with spring cleaning my house. I've done a whole lot of spring cleaning my life, and it's an exercise that I love. So if you missed that podcast episode at the beginning of the month, it's never too late. Please go catch up with that particular episode of spring cleaning your life. This is something that you can do at any time during the year. I explain in that episode, I do this every quarter, and it's a very simple exercise, but the framework is really, really helpful to create some self awareness of where you are in different areas of your life, ditch the overwhelm, and refocus your priorities, your attention, and help you live a more fulfilling life. So, really recommend you catch up with that podcast episode. But now into this one. So we're at the end of April, and my brain is already thinking about May. I am that kind of person that I've always thinking like, what is next? I can't help it. And I've been thinking about what I want my theme for May to be. And to be honest, I've been stuck. I couldn't figure out what I want my theme for May to be. If you've been following along, you know that I treat the year as a book, and every month is a chapter. And I like to find a title for each chapter of the year or a theme for each month of the year. So this month of April, the theme was spring cleaning. And now I've been thinking and thinking about what my theme should be for May. And then something happened. And this is going to prove the point on how my inspiration comes to create the content for this podcast episodes. There are times that I am very intentional about researching things to talk to you guys about, but sometimes it just comes from places that I was not expecting, like this week. So I am stuck, and then one morning, I'm checking my phone, and in Facebook, one of my favorite functions of Facebook is memories. when it reminds you of what happened in a day like today, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 12 years ago. And I love that because it reminds me of all the memories that I've treasured and the experiences that I've got to get. And particularly this week, I saw a picture. It remind me of a set of pictures from 2 years ago. And this picture in particular, or these pictures in particular, were pictures of my kids making homemade pizza. I have a now 13-year-old, so at the time he was 11, and I have a 5-year-old, almost 6, that at the time was almost 4 years old. And we had like night I we were cooking homemade pizza and they were making the pizza. And we had a lot of fun, and I love that functionality on Facebook because you kind of revive all those memories, right? So get to live them again by remembering them. And I am someone who loves taking pictures. Anytime that you look at my phone, I have thousands of pictures on my phone, and I'm terrible and cleaning them up because I am that kind of person that doesn't want to delete any of the pictures. And that's why I love Facebook, because once I upload them to Facebook, I know they're somewhere where I can go back to them. And then I feel a little bit better about deleting them because they're not deleted from the world. They are somewhere where I can find them. So, anyways, that remind me of a challenge that I did 2 years ago. So, think about, this was May 2019, 2020. It was May 2020, and we were in the midst of the pandemic. And I remember that at that point, I was feeling a little bit anxious and overwhelmed and worried. And I personally did not saw the light at the end of the tunnel with, being all at home. Like at that time, my husband and I were working from home. My kids were homeschooling. Like it was that time that it was in the midst of all of this. And I was feeling, to be completely honest, a little bit overwhelmed and anxious and worried, and I was not in a good place. I was not in a good place, and I decided to start a little challenge, because there's this quote, one of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins, that says, "What focus goes, energy flows." And I said, okay, I need to stop focusing on all the bad things, on all the negative things, on all the things that are making me feel the way that I'm feeling right now. And I need to shift my focus on something more positive. And I decided to start this challenge where every day I would post a picture, or more than one picture. If For me, the goal was one picture, but there were days that I posted more than one, that captured a moment of joy that day. So my goal was to find something every day that brought me joy and focus on that thing. And I started it every day. And after several weeks, I thought, I'm going to do this for a week. And then it was 2 weeks, and then it was over a month. And then at one point, I shifted to weekly. And then every week on Sundays, I will post like pictures of my week, and I will share the things that brought me joy that week and the things that I was grateful about that week. And I did this with dual intention. On one hand, I was trying to change my focus into something that would change the way that I felt. Because when we change the way and what we focus, we also can change how we feel. But second of all, I was thinking, this pandemic, where we're in the midst of the pandemic, I'm like, one day I'm going to be talking with my kids or my grandkids and telling stories about the pandemic, because this is one of those events that we know is going to be on history books. This is one of the events that our kids or our grandkids or their kids are going to study at school. They're going to learn about. And I'm thinking just like when I was a kid, right? And I would go to my grandparents to ask them questions about how was life during the war, like the Civil War in Spain. Um, and they will tell me all the stories, right? And I remember that a lot of those stories were sad stories. Were stories about not having enough to eat. There were stories about uncertainty, um, and rightly so, right? It was a war. And I'm not trying to compare the pandemic with a war, but my thought process was, if one day my grandkids come to me and ask me about the pandemic, or even if I'm just reflecting back at one point in my life on the pandemic, I don't want to remember the pandemic for how it feels right now. I want to remember this time for something that is positive. So I started to focus on positive things, on things that brought me joy, and I tried to capture them with my camera. And for accountability, I was sharing them in Facebook because here's how I operate, right? I have an idea, I share it with the world, I put it out there, and I said, every day for the next week or 2 weeks or month or whatever, I'm going to be sharing these pictures. And then my level of commitment like goes over the roof, right? Because I made this public commitment. Um, and that typically helps me or serves me better than just making a commitment to myself. Right or wrong, that's how I work. That's how my world works. So, I started by posting these pictures, and at first, it felt good. It felt, slowly my focus started to shift. And I won't lie, there were days that it was the night and I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't think of anything today." Like today was stressful. I didn't do anything exciting, and um, it was hard. But then it became me chasing these moments, creating these moments, thinking that if these moments are not naturally and organically happening, I'm going to create them. So, for example, one week I decided to do a tour around the world, like culinary ways. So, every day for dinner, we would go and visit a country. I was really upset because we had all these plans to go on vacation, to go see my family in Spain, and we couldn't. They were all canceled, and that really, really had me depressed. Not depressed, but sad and upset. So I decided, okay, if we can't get on a plane and travel, let's travel from home. And at that time, I remember a lot of museums were doing like virtual tours and things like that. So there was a week I remember on this challenge that every day we picked a country and we watch a video about that country. We visited a museum virtually on that country. And then I would prepare food that emulated that country, and I will post those pictures in Facebook. And then I remember during the pandemic, I've never been a runner, and I decided to start running. That was my excuse to get outdoors. I didn't have a treadmill at the time, so I would wake up very early in the morning. I signed up for this program, like this 30-day training to a 5K. And I would go to the track in the high school near me and I would run every day. I would get out, get fresh air. And, I ended up running my first 5K during the pandemic. And I had set myself the goal, I want to run a 5K before I turn 40. And it turned out I did it way before that. I really underestimated what I was capable to do in just 30 days. I thought it was going to take me a year to run a 5K. And after 30 days of training, I was able to run my first 5K. I got a medal. It was a virtual one. And, now I can go back and say, I'm going to remember the pandemic as the time where I run my first 5K. I would remember the pandemic as the time that my kids and I did this tour around the world. And like that, there were so many other memories. And these were really small things, right? None of these things, well, a 5K was a big thing for me, but all these pictures that I was posting every day on my Facebook account, they were little things. There was, some days it was drinking a coffee, sitting on my deck, or working outside out of my backyard. I couldn't go to the office and I was upset I couldn't see people. But then I got to work like on my backyard with this amazing view of my backyard. Not that I have it is an amazing view. I mean, it's all relative, right? You know what I mean. So there were small things like making pizza with my kids, like teaching my daughter to ride her bike. They were little things that came up every day that fill me with joy. And those things, some of them might have happened regardless of me doing this challenge. But a lot of those things were things that I was intentional about creating these memories, about living these moments, because I was chasing moments of joy because I was committed to this challenge. And and some of those might have happened regardless, but I might had not pay attention to them because I was too busy worried about work and life and doing the things, right? And we go through our days, especially nowadays, like we live such busy lives that we don't take the time to slow down and appreciate the little things that happen in our days. So this challenge helped me with all of that. And this week, Facebook remind me of something that I posted 2 years ago when I was in the midst of this challenge. And I look back and I ask myself, why did I stop? Why did I stop doing this if it felt so amazing? And I knew when I did this challenge, I knew that Facebook was going to remember me of these things, and that I was going to look back and look at this dark, quote unquote, time of the pandemic and remember it from a completely different perspective. And then I asked myself, why did I stop? And I feel embarrassed about this, but the reason why I stopped, I think at least, is because I was self conscious. I was worried about what other people might think of me doing this. Um, and I'm like, who cares? This version of me today is like, who cares? And who cares in the best way that I can mean that. I mean, not in the way that I don't care about what other people think, but if this is something that was bringing me joy, why stop? Because I was worried about other people judging me or whatever they were thinking about me. At that time, I had a clear why I was doing it and I stopped. So I told myself, I know exactly what my theme for May is going to be. My theme for May is I choose joy. And I'm actually making that a hashtag, I choose joy. And I'm going to be doing a 31-day challenge. And I want to invite you to join me. So, on the show notes of this podcast episode, I'm going to put in a link for you to join the challenge. And if you decide to join the challenge, It will take you, once you go to that link, to join a private Facebook group where this challenge is going to be taking place. And I'm going to be posting ideas, and I'm going to be posting things that I've learned through my experience going through this challenge in the past, science facts about why this challenge and how you can take the most out of the challenge. But it's also a safe place for you to share your moments of joy every day, to show how do you choose joy. Now, you don't have to join this group to do the challenge. You can do it in your own personal Facebook or Instagram account. And like I did, every day, post a picture of something that brings you joy that day. And at the beginning, as I said, it might be hard, but I promise that if you stay consistent with it, you're going to find yourself experiencing what I experience. You're going to find yourself chasing those moments, creating those memories. Your mood is going to change. You're going to wake up with a different attitude every day, and you're going to go to bed with a completely different sense of fulfillment and joy and appreciation for life. It sounds like a very simple thing. And I know what you might be thinking because I've been there. I thought, how can this make a difference? But it did for me. And I know of hundreds of thousands and millions of people that have done similar challenges, that have experienced similar things to what I did. So I'm going to be starting this challenge again, May 1st. I'm not waiting to May 1st, but I want to, this is going to be my theme for May. I've been taking pictures every day. I've been intentional about finding these moments of joy from the moment that I saw that picture, that memory from Facebook. And I asked myself, why did I stop? I just started back again. I haven't been sharing them in social media yet, but I'm going to start doing that May 1st. And if you want to join the challenge, again, go to the show notes. There is a link for you to join. You don't have to join my challenge. You can do it on your own as well. Use the hashtag #IChooseJoy and post a picture of something that brought you joy that day, something that you can be grateful for that day. Okay, so that is the challenge that I have for you. That is going to be the challenge that I'm going to be taking, the theme that I'm choosing for the month of May. I hope that you join the challenge. If you're sharing those pictures in social media and you want to tag me, my both Facebook and Instagram accounts are Leading Yourself Podcast. I would love to see what are the things that bring you joy. With that, I hope that you have an amazing week. I hope that you decide to join this little challenge. And I want to ask you to invite at least one more person to join you in doing this challenge. You can either share with them this podcast episode, share with them the link to join the official challenge, or just do it on your own. Maybe what you do is every day when you share your picture with your hashtag #IChooseJoy, you tag a friend and you invite that friend to join you. Even if they just share one picture of one thing that brings them joy. But even better, invite them to join the entire challenge for 31 days on a row. Can you be happy every day? Can you experience joy every day for 31 days in a row? And one thing I promise you is that if you do this challenge, if you take on this challenge for the 31 days, you're not going to want to stop. You might don't want to start right now, But at the end of the month, I can guarantee you that you're not going to want to stop, because the way that doing this simple thing that takes 1 minute is going to make you feel, it's something that you can't even imagine right now. Okay, now it is a goodbye. Not a goodbye, but I see you next week here for another episode of the Leading Yourself podcast. Have an amazing week and an amazing end of the month.